The Senate will come to order. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Allen, Alvarado Gil, Archuleta, Ashby, Atkins, Becker, Blakespear, Bradford, Caballero, Cortese, Daly, Dodd, Darazo, Eggman, Glazer, Gonzalez, Grove, Hurtado, Jones, Laird, Limon, McGuire, Menjivar, Min, Newman, Wynn, Nilo, Ochobo, Padilla, Portantino, Roth, Rubio, Sayarto, Skinner, Small Cuevas, Stern, Umberg, Wahab, Wiener, Wilk.
Members, a quorum is present. Good morning. Welcome to the Senate floor session today. I see we have a number of twins in the House. We want to acknowledge and recognize them. I'd like to ask members and guests beyond the rail and in the gallery to please rise. We will be led in prayer this morning by our chaplain, Sister Michelle, after which please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Sister Michelle.
And also on this World Day for Cultural Diversity, we pray, Holy Mystery, you, the one from whom on different paths all of us have come. You, the one to whom on different paths all of us are going. Make strong in our hearts what unites us. Build bridges across what divides us. United, make us rejoice in our diversity. Make us one in our witness to your peace, a rainbow to your glory. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag We will begin with privileges of the floor. There are none. Messages from the governor will be deemed read. Messages from the assembly will be deemed read. Reports of committee will be deemed read and amendments adopted. Members, we're going to move next to motions, resolutions, and notices. Seeing no microphones up, we will, excuse me, Senator Cortese.
Mr. President, is this the place to move items to the inactive file?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. I would like to move Assemblymember Ting's AB 347 from the inactive file. Remove AB 347 from the inactive file today. Thank you.
The desk will note. Any further motions, resolutions, or notices, members? All right, we'll move on to the consideration of the daily file. I'd like to ask the Secretary, we'll begin with second reading. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 936, 1054, 1282, 1414, 1348, 1494, Senate concurrent resolution.
Second reading file will be deemed read. Thank you. We're going to move next to unfinished business. We're going to take an item up in a few minutes and unfinished. Right. I'm just noting that we're going to come back to unfinished business in a moment. And we're going to move now to Senate third reading. Members, if you want to know the schedule of activities this morning, I want to give you a heads up so you can be aware that we're going to begin with Senate third reading. We have 5 bills up. They are file item, if you want to note this, 24, 28, 29, 30, and 34. Following that, we will move back to unfinished business to take up file item 21 to concur in assembly amendment. So that's the docket for this morning. And members, because we do have a member off the floor this morning, we will be going through the roll one time and then putting matters on call. So be aware of that for this morning. Okay, we'll go through the roll one time. All right, so we're going to begin with file item 24. This is Senate Bill 1001 by Senator Skinner. She's prepared. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1001 by Senator Skinner, an act relating to criminal procedure.
Senator Skinner, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, pleased to present SB 1001, okay, yes. Sorry, I thought I was going with the other one first. All right. Pleased to present SB 1001, which establishes a process for a person who has received a death penalty sentence, but who has a developmental or intellectual disability, I'll refer from this point on as intellectual disability, the ability to provide expert evidence that their developmental disability manifested prior to the age of 25. Now, under our current law, if you have a diagnosis that you had such a disability before the age of 25, and that diagnosis is present when you face a conviction, you are ineligible for a death sentence. And that is consistent with the Eighth Amendment. But we have circumstances where people with these intellectual disabilities, for any number of reasons, did not receive that diagnosis. You could imagine that person didn't have access to health care, they weren't at schools that did such testing. There's any number of reasons why they may not have had that diagnosis before the age of 25. Now, this bill does not change our current statute in that the presence of the intellectual disability or the developmental disability must have been present in the developmental period. So it must have been present before the age of 25. My bill does not in any way touch or thwart that. That is still the law. But what it does do is allow, if a person can provide the credible evidence with experts who do such testing, medical and other experts, then they would avoid the death penalty. They would still have life without parole, but they would not be able to be executed. Now, you may wonder, why am I bringing this bill now? We have a moratorium on executions, but the fact is the death penalty is still law in California, and executions could begin again. And what this does is helps us ensure that California is consistent with the Eighth Amendment and protects against the execution of people with intellectual disabilities. And with that, I ask for your aye vote.
Members, any discussion on this bill? Any discussion? Seeing none. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. Aye. Archuleta. Aye. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Aye. Caballero. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. No. Dodd. Aye. Durazo. Aye. Eggman. Glazer.
Aye.
Aye. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. Hurtado. Jones. No. Laird. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Menjivar. Aye. Min. Newman. Aye. Wynn. No. Nilo. No. Ochoa. Padilla. Aye. Portantino. Aye. Roth. Rubio. Aye. Sayarto. No. Skinner. Aye. Small. Gravis. Aye. Stern. Aye. Umberg. Aye. Wahab. Aye. Weiner. Aye. Wilk. No.
Members, I've been informed that we do have a full house now, so we're going to go through the roll one more time. Secretary, please call the absent members.
Allen. Eggman. Aye. Grove. No. Hurtado. Min. Ochoa. No. Roth.
Secretary, please call the absent members.
Allen. Hurtado. Min. Roth.
On a vote of 28 to 8, the measure carries. Members, we're going to move next to file item 28. This is Senate Bill 1272 by Senator Laird. He's prepared. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1272 by Senator Laird, an act relating to consumer protection.
Senator Laird.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Consumers have had the option to ask stores to redeem the remaining balance of a gift card below $10 for the last 16 years. There's been significant inflation since then, and the buying power has dropped. This bill would raise the redeemable dollar amount to $25 with an annual adjustment for inflation rounded to the nearest whole dollar. According to the National Retail Federation, there is the most popular gift of the holiday season. CNN reports that there's $21 billion sitting in unused gift cards. This will update it for the first time in the 16 years. There have been a few arguments against this. One is that it would require stores to keep extra cash on hand. Cash is not the requirement for redeeming, and that is not used by everyone now. There have been concerns about retail theft. We have asked for data. We have received none. If we receive any, we will look at this. And there's also concern about a federal limit, but Massachusetts has a scheme that has a limit that's higher than the one in this bill. So it's time to update this for the consumers. I think it's fair. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Members, any discussion or debate on this measure? Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. Archuleta. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Aye. Caballero. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. No. Dodd. Aye. Durazo. Aye. Eggman. Aye. Glazer. Aye. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. No. Hurtado. Jones. No. Laird. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Minjavar. Aye. Min. Aye. Newman. Aye. Wayne. No. Nilo. No. Ochoa. Padilla. Aye. Portantino. Aye. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Sayarto. No. Skinner. Aye. Smallwood Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Aye. Umberg. Aye. Wahab. Aye. Wiener. Aye. Wilk.
Please call the absent members.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. Aye. Archuleta. Hurtado. Aye. Ochoa. Wilk.
On a vote of 30-6, the measure carries. Members, we're going to move next to file item 29. This is Senate Bill 1300 by Senator Cortese. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1300 by Senator Cortese, an act relating to health facilities.
Senator Cortese, the floor is yours. Members, please give Senator Cortese your attention.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. I'm pleased to present SB 1300. SB 1300 will help communities prepare for the closures of psychiatric units and maternity wards in hospitals. This bill requires the health facility to provide a 120-day public notice of the elimination of its inpatient psychiatric or maternity ward unit. It also requires a health facility to prepare a report that analyzes the impact of the closure on the surrounding community's health system. Finally, the bill increases public transparency by strongly encouraging each county board of supervisors to post a report online and hold a public hearing to provide the community with an overview of the impact report. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Members, any discussion or debate on this issue? Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. Archuleta. Ashby. I. Atkins. Becker. I. Blakespear. I. Bradford. I. Caballero. I. Cortese. I. Daly. No. Dodd. Durazo. Dodd. I. Durazo. I. Eggman. Glazer. Gonzalez. I. Grove. No. Hurtado. I. Jones. No. Laird. I. Limon. I. McGuire. I. Minjavar. I. Min. I. Newman. I. Win. No. Nilo. No. Achobo. Padilla. I. Portantino. I. Roth. I. Rubio. Sayarto. No. Skinner. I. Small Cuevas. I. Stern. I. Humbert. I. Wahab. I. Weiner. I. Wilk. No.
Please call the absent members.
Allen. Alroda Gill. No. Archuleta. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Eggman. Glazer. Ochobo. Rubio. Aye. Dodd. Ida. No.
On a vote of 27 to 9, the measure carries. We're going to move next to file item number 30. This is SB 1401 by Senator Blakespear. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1401 by Senator Blakespear, enacting into child care.
Senator Blakespear, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President and colleagues. I rise to present SB 1401, which waives state licensure requirements for family child care providers who exclusively care for children of military personnel if they are already certified by the U.S. Department of Defense. This bill is sponsored by the U.S. Department of Defense and addresses a 50% shortage of in-home child care providers for military families. By creating new military child care spots, SB 1401 will also help alleviate long child care wait lists for all Californians, as fewer military families will need to use civilian options. This bill has no registered opposition and very much supports our military families. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Members, any discussion on this measure? Any discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alroda Gill. Aye. Archuleta. Aye. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Aye. Caballero. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. Aye. Dodd. Aye. Durazo. Aye. Eggman. Glazer. Aye. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. Aye. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. Aye. Laird. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Minjavar. Aye. Min. Aye. Newman. Aye. Win. Aye. Nilo. Aye. Ochobo. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Portantino. Aye. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Sayarto. Aye. Skinner. Aye. Small Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Aye. Umberg. Aye. Wahab. Aye. Weiner. Aye. Wilk. Aye.
Please call the absent members.
Allen. Eggman. Aye. McGuire.
On a vote of 38 to 0, the measure carries. We're going to move next to file item 34. This is Senate Bill 924 by Senator Bradford. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 924 by Senator Bradford, enacting into tenancy.
Senator Bradford.
Thank you, Mr. President. 924 simply removes the sunset date of July 1, 2025 from a measure I passed in 2020, SB 1157, that requires landlords of subsidized assisted developments to offer the option to renters to have their credit reported and effectively make this permanent. Our rent reporting has helped individuals establish credit and helps individuals with non-prime credit improve their credit scores. It's a straightforward measure, and I simply ask for your aye vote.
Any further discussion or debate on this measure? Any further discussion or debate? Okay. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alrotigo. Aye. Archuleta. Aye. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Aye. Caballero. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. Dodd. Aye. Dorazo. Aye. Eggman. Aye. Glazer. Aye. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. Laird. Aye. Limon. McGuire. Minjavar. Aye. Min. Aye. Newman. Aye. Wynn. Nilo. No. Achobo. No. Padilla. Aye. Portantino. Aye. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Sayarto. Skinner. Aye. Small Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Aye. Umbert. Aye. Wahab. Aye. Wiener. Aye. Woke. Aye.
Please call the absent members.
Allen. Daly. Grove. Aye. Jones. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Wynn. Ciarto. No.
On a vote of 33-3, the measure carries. Members, we're going to move back to unfinished business. We have one item to take up. This is file item 21, again on unfinished business. This is SB 233 by Senator Skinner. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 233 by Senator Skinner, an act relating to healing arts and declaring the urgency thereof to take effect immediately.
Senator Skinner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, pleased to present SB 233, which will temporarily allow licensed medical professionals, specifically Arizona doctors, to be able to get a temporary medical license in California in order to practice in California to provide abortion care to their Arizona patients who travel to California. These provisions sunset on November 30th, 2024. Arizonans, beginning on June 6th, face a total abortion ban based on an 1864 law. That ban triggers 2 to 5 year prison sentences for doctors who provide care and other sentencing for any woman who receives such care. Now, while I'm sure you've read, the Arizona legislature has now rescinded the 1864 law. And I guess you're wondering, why do we need this law today? Because, like California, you know, when we pass a law, even when the governor signs it, it doesn't come into effect until a certain period of time after our session. In most cases, in our session, it would start in January 1st of the following year. In Arizona, bills take effect 90 days after the end of their session. Their session is not scheduled to end until the end of July. Thus, Arizonans will not have such protection until at least the end of October or November. This is why SB 233 is still needed. And under 233, the Arizona doctor must hold and verify that they have a medical license in good standing from Arizona and must have performed at least one abortion under their Arizona license within the last 2 years. This bill also provides protection, privacy protection for those physicians and surgeons. And with that, I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Skinner. That's an aye vote on Assembly amendments to be concurred in. Right. Senator Nilo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Everything that my colleague from Berkeley just said is true, but she left something out, and that is that the governor of Arizona, through executive order, is prohibiting local district attorneys from prosecuting under the Civil War era law, and only the Attorney General can. And the Attorney General has said that their office will decline to enforce that Civil War era law. So the relevant period of this enablement is about 4 weeks, but in Arizona, it's not going to be needed.
Thank you, Senator Nilo. Senator Wahab.
Thank you. I rise in support of SB 233. I will say that this is life-saving care for many women. We cannot overstate this enough. More specifically, I want to highlight the fact that as much as possible, as much as we talk about women's rights, the decision over one's body is still in question here in the United States. Maternal mortality rate in the United States is so much worse than nearly any other developed country. In 2022, there were 22.3 deaths per 100,000 live births. These rates are far worse when we shift our lens to women of color. Specifically, California is the state where we try to provide for every single community, including our neighbors who are struggling. It was also the Arizona Attorney General's call to action that prompted this effort from a neighboring state like the state of California. So I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion or debate? Seeing none, Senator Skinner, you may close.
Thank you. In response to my colleague from Fair Oaks, and I hope I have the correct jurisdiction, I think, as he well knows, and all of us know, and I know that governors would like their executive orders to have the force of statute, they unfortunately do not. And while in most cases, entities like prosecutors or others will follow an executive order, the executive order does not have the force of law. And so one could imagine there could be circumstances where there would be prosecutors in Arizona who do not agree with the governor, as you had a court in Arizona who allowed the upholding of as you mentioned, a Civil War era law, a law which I will note was passed when women could not vote, when women could not own property, when it was legal for husbands to beat women, and a variety of other things I could list, but I won't go further. So our law is still needed. I hope that the cases, that there's no prosecutor who chooses to defy the governor of Arizona's executive order, but at least we will be acting in such a way that Arizona doctors will be able to determine how best to meet their medical obligations to their patients, and Arizona women who require this essential health care would be able to obtain it. And with that, I ask for your aye vote.
All debate having ceased, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. Aye. Archuleta. Aye. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Gabiotto. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. No. Dodd. Aye. Durazo. Aye. Eggman. Glazer. Aye. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. No. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. No. Laird. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Menjivar. Aye. Min. Aye. Newman. Aye. Wynn. No. Nilo. No. Achobo. No. Padilla. Aye. Portantino. Aye. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Sayarto. No. Skinner. Aye. Small Cuevas. Stern. I, Umberg. I, Wahab. I, Weiner. I, Wilk. No.
Please call the absent members.
Allen. Bradford. I, Eggman. I, McGuire. Small Cuevas. I.
On a vote of 30 to 8 on the urgency, 30 to 8 on the measure, the Assembly amendments are concurred in.
Members, we have some of our colleagues off the floor, so for the next couple of bills, we're going to be doing the roll call just once and then putting it on call until our members come back. Next on the file item list, we have file item number 35. Senator Laird, are you prepared? Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1280 by Senator Laird, an act relating to waste management.
Senator Laird.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And at the beginning, I respectfully request permission to use a prop during this presentation.
Without objection.
Okay, I heard might object, so I'm going to move ahead. Senate Bill 1280 simply transitions California to more sustainable outdoor recreation by requiring small propane cylinders sold in the state to be reusable or refillable starting on January 1st, 2028. Many of you may think this bill looks familiar. This bill in this form has passed this House twice before. And the problem is, this. Right now, cities, counties, parks, beaches, everybody has to dispose of these themselves. This is a picture of Yosemite National Park where they have collected these and put them in trucks and carted off. Cost them $75,000 a year to do this. The cities and counties across the state have to do the same thing. There's a reason that the League of Cities, the Association of Counties, rural counties all support this bill. Because while it costs $5 to $10 to buy these on the marketplace, the cost varies from $15 to $30 or higher to dispose of them or take them away. Many times we have here decided that the market is the best place to deal with these. And that's what this does. When I was in the assembly, the latest version of more efficient toilets failed when it was going to be put in the building code. But when it gave the market a few years to phase it in, it passed, and that worked for businesses and that worked for the environment. That's what this does. We are in 2024, and this bill will not take effect till 2028. The opponents say a number of things, that somehow you'll have to cart many canisters into the parks. When it's refillable and you have one, it is really one. It is not multiple ones. Opponents say this is a ban. This is not a ban. This establishes a requirement for refillable and allows a number of years for the market to catch up and make it work. It is really right now a burden on taxpayers across the state. And those of us that have beaches or state parks, and I rival Senator McGuire in having as many state parks as any senator on this floor, you just go and you see them in trash cans. And if there's propane left in them, that's hazardous. And so the real issue here is to have some extended producer responsibility by having a recyclable propane cylinder. It has passed this House twice. It is supported widely. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Senator Blakespear, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you. Colleagues, I also rise in strong support of SB 1280. It is estimated that in California alone, there are 4 million of those single canister 1-pound propane cylinders that are sold. And as the author just said, the cost is borne by taxpayers, but it's also borne by the environment. If you backpack, you see piles of these cylinders out in the backcountry because they are heavy and they're not refillable, and people leave them in nature. So this is a form of preventable waste, and I strongly urge your aye vote.
Any further discussion or debate? Senator Laird, you may close.
Thank you. I really appreciate the comments. And I just remind you, this picture is of the status quo. If we don't have any solution, this continues across our parks and beaches in cities and counties at the expense of our taxpayers. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. Aye. Archuleta. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Aye. Caballero. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. Dodd. Dorazo. Aye. Eggman. Aye. Glazer. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. No. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. No. Laird. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Menjivar. Min. Aye. Min. Excuse me. Newman. Aye. Wynn. No. Nilo. Aye. Ochoa Bogue. Padilla. Aye. Portantino. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Sayarto. No. Skinner. Aye. Small Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Aye. Umberg. Wahab. Aye. Weiner. Aye. Wilk. Aye.
Member moves to call. Next on the list is file item 30A. Senator Caballero, are you prepared? The senator is prepared. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1140 by Senator Caballero, an act relating to local government.
Senator Caballero.
Good morning, Madam President and members. Thank you for the opportunity to present SB 1140, which will reform enhanced infrastructure financing districts, EIFDs, and climate resilient districts, or CRDs, to streamline and create efficiencies in the formation process and expand the types of projects these tools can finance. SB 1140 will reduce the mandatory meetings from 4 to 3. It broadens the alternative mailing and notification methods to incorporate all EIFD formation meetings, annual reports, and potential amendments. SB 1140 eliminates the mandate for the Public Financing Authority to publish meeting notices in newspaper. Instead, it enables the forming district to electronically submit its resolution of intention to establish the district to other taxing entities. Furthermore, it removes the requirement to mail annual report notices via first-class mail. As you can tell, this is an efficiency and a reorganization of the way the process works. SB 1140 expands the type of projects that EIFDs and CRDs can finance to include projects that improve air quality. These benefits will significantly improve the ability for EIFDs and CRDs to advance their mission to support economic development and spur climate change resiliency in communities across the state. This bill has no opposition, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Any discussion on file item 38? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. Aye. Archuleta. Aye. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Aye. Caballero. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. Dodd. Aye. Dorazo. Aye. Eggman. Aye. Glazer. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. No. Laird. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Menjivar. Aye. Min. Aye. Newman. Aye. Wynn. Nilo. Petrobo. No. Padilla. Aye. Portantino. Aye. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Sayarto. No. Skinner. Aye. Small Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Aye. Umberg. Wahab. Aye. Wiener. Aye. Wilk. Aye.
The senator moves to call. Moving on to file item 39. Senator Dodd, are you prepared? He is ready. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 904 by Senator Dodd, an act relating to transportation.
Senator?
Madam President, members, today I'm presenting SB 904. This is a district bill that updates the enabling legislation of the Sonoma Marin Area Rail Transit District, or SMART Train as they call it, and authorizes SMART's special district to utilize a voter initiative in order to ensure greater financial stability. The SMART Train is an incredible example of a public transit project that advances many of our state's top goals: increased rail and bicycle use, transit-oriented development, and collaboration by local governments at a regional scale. Since coming into service in 2017, SMART has overcome wildfires, floods, and a global pandemic that devastated public transit. Despite those obstacles, they keep chugging along, and at the end of 2023, became the first transit system in the Bay Area to recover to their pre-pandemic ridership numbers. This bill also empowers the voters of this special district for the first time to pursue their own ballot measures through a voter initiative. A voter-approved qualified initiative process will provide an opportunity to enhance community engagement and ensure greater accountability and direction for how to best dedicate future resources to operate a small system. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Any discussion on file item 39? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. Archuleta. Aye. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Aye. Capioto. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. No. Dodd. Aye. Dorazo. Aye. Eggman. Aye. Glazer. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. No. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. No. Laird. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Menjivar. Aye. Min. Newman. Aye. Wynn. No. Nilo. No. Chobo. No. Padilla. Aye. Portantino. Aye. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Sayarto. No. Skinner. Aye. Small Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Aye. Umberg. Wahab. Aye. Wiener. Aye. Wilk. No.
Senator Dodd moves to call. Moving towards file item 40, Senator Becker. He is prepared. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1018 by Senator Becker, an act relating to electricity.
Senator Becker.
Thank you, Madam President. This bill will allow hydrogen producers to use renewable energy directly from solar or wind farms to make green hydrogen, and will allow factories to do the same thing to provide heat to run their processes with clean electricity rather than fossil fuels. Our scoping plan predicts 10 gigawatts of hydrogen production powered directly from off-grid renewables. But there's a problem. You cannot do this today because of something called the over-the-fence rule. This rule says if you sell power to anyone, you must be regulated as a public utility, which would kill any project. There are a few exemptions to this, limited to power produced on the same property as the buyer or a single adjacent property, hence the name over-the-fence rule. The problem is that to generate enough power to produce hydrogen or electrify a factory, you need a lot more space for solar or wind than just a single adjacent property. SB 1018 solves this problem by allowing a large solar or wind farm to sell their output directly to a single customer who will use that power for producing hydrogen or providing industrial heat. By limiting this exemption to allow sales to a single customer, we're keeping the consumer protections under current law in place. This bill will support the growth of green hydrogen and industrial electrification using off-grid renewables, which will ensure it makes use of clean energy and avoids putting new stress on the grid or impacting electricity rates. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Do we have any discussion on file item 40? Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gilman. Aye. Archuleta. Aye. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Caballero. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. No. Dodd. Durazo. Aye. Eggman. Aye. Glazer. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. No. Hurtado. Jones. No. Laird. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Menjivar. Aye. Min. Aye. Newman. Aye. Wynn. No. Nilo. No. Achobo. No. Padilla. Portantino. Aye. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Sayarto. No. Skinner. Aye. Small and Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Aye. Umbert. Wahab. Aye. Wiener. Aye. Wilk. No.
Senator Becker moves to call. The next three items on our list are file item 41, 42, and 43. Senator Roth, you're up first. Is the senator prepared? He is. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1249 by Senator Roth, an act relating to older adults.
Please proceed, Senator.
Thank you, Madam President. This bill seeks to address the needs of California's rapidly aging population by modernizing California's Older Californians Act. The bill proposes to reform the Older Californians Act to conform to recent changes in federal regulations which implement the federal Older Americans Act and introduces accountability and performance measures, updates governance structures, and establishes timeframes for the California Department of Aging to engage in stakeholder consultation. Ask for an aye vote.
Any discussion? Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gilman. Archuleta. Aye. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Aye. Caballero. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. Dodd. Aye. Durazo. Aye. Eggman. Aye. Glazer. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. Aye. Laird. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Menjivar. Aye. Min. Aye. Newman. Aye. Wynn. Nilo. Achobo. Padilla. Portantino. Aye. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Sayarto. Skinner. Aye. Small Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Aye. Umbert. Wahab. Aye. Wiener. Aye. Wilk.
Senator
vote.
Roth moves to call. Majority Leader, are you prepared for item 42? She is ready. Secretary, please read. Just need a couple seconds here. There we go. Secretary, please read. File item 42.
Senate Bill 1337 by Senator Gonzalez, an act relating to elections.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise today to present SB 1337, which will provide greater transparency about the funders of referendum petitions seeking to overturn state law. This bill will require the top 3 funders be listed directly on each signature page. As we know, direct democracy is an important tool for Californians, but unfortunately, large corporations are abusing this process to overturn legislation passed by this very body. and recent petition campaigns to qualify referendums have been rife with examples of paid signature gatherers misrepresenting what a measure would do and refusing to produce the top funders sheet already required under law. SB 1337 will ensure voters can make informed decisions and are aware of who is funding efforts to overturn laws before deciding to sign a petition. I respectfully ask for your aye vote on SB 1337.
Thank you, Senator. Any discussion on file item 42? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. No. Archuleta. Aye. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Aye. Caballero. Cortese. Aye. Daly. No. Dodd. Durazo. Aye. Eggman. Aye. Glazer. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. No. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. No. Laird. Aye. Lamone. Aye. McGuire. Menjivar. Aye. Min. Aye. Newman. Aye. Wynn. No. Nilo. No. Achobog. No. Padilla. Aye. Bordentino. Aye. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Ciarto. No. Skinner. Aye. Small Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Aye. Umberg. Wahab. Aye. Weiner. Aye. Wilk. No.
Senator moves to call. Moving on to file item 43, Senator Hurtado is prepared. Secretary, please read file item 43.
Senate Bill 1367 by Senator Hurtado, an act relating to agriculture and making an appropriation therefore.
Senator Hurtado.
Thank you, Madam President. SB 1367 seeks to safeguard funding for the Safe Animal Feed Education Program by extending the sunset for the program from January 1, 2025 to January 1, 2031. This bill has received bipartisan support throughout the committee process, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Any discussion on the item? I'm seeing none. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. Aye. Archuleta. Aye. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Aye. Caballero. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. Aye. Dodd. Aye. Durazo. Aye. Eggman. Aye. Glazer. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. Aye. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. Aye. Laird. Aye. Lamone. Aye. McGuire. Menjivar. Aye. Min. Aye. Newman. Aye. Wynn. Aye. Nilo. Aye. Ochobo. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Bordentino. Aye. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Ciarto. Aye. Skinner. Aye. Small Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Aye. Umberg. Wahab. Aye. Weiner. Aye. Wilk. Aye.
Senator Hurtado moves to call. The next three items on our list are file item 46, 47, and 48. Senator Eggman is prepared. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1184 by Senator Eggman, an act relating to mental health.
Senator, please proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam President. This bill goes to try to ensure that people do not compensate during a hold due to the lack of medication. This says that the order and the rehearing that was established on their first hold will last until the person regains capacity or the next rehearing is held in order to make sure treatment is not disrupted and people are able to return to the highest capacity they can and to make sure their rights are ensured. I ask for your aye vote.
Any discussion on file item 46? Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. Aye. Archuleta. Aye. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Aye. Caballero. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. Aye. Dodd. Aye. Durazo. Aye. Eggman. Aye. Glazer. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. I, Hurtado. I, Jones. I, Laird. I, Limon. I, McGuire. Minjavar. I, Min. I, Newman. I, Wynn. I, Nila. I, Ochobo. I, Padilla. I, Portantino. I, Roth. I, Rubio. I, Searto. I, Skinner. I, Small Cuevas. I, Stern. I, Umberg. Wahab. I, Wiener. I, Wilk. Aye.
Senator Eggman moves to call. Colleagues, it'll change in what order I gave you earlier. The next three are file item 47, 52, and 53. Senator Min, are you prepared? He is. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1174 by Senator Min, an act relating to elections.
Senator Min.
Thank you, Madam President. SB 1174 would ensure that local governments cannot implement their own voter identification laws in local elections. It is very clear already as a matter of existing law that local jurisdictions, including charter cities, are not permitted to impose voter identification requirements that would impact charters, county elections, state elections, or federal elections. However, there is some ambiguity, as I read it in the law right now, regarding whether charter cities can implement their own voter ID requirements in a different time and place for their own elections. This bill would close any ambiguity and make clear that 100 local jurisdictions cannot implement 100 different voter ID requirements. This should be a state matter to decide, and of course, my local city of Huntington Beach has tried to pass this, or has passed a voter ID requirement purportedly, which is under litigation, based on reports of voter fraud, such as the Big Lie, which have been proven to be false. If evidence was presented to this body of the need for voter identification changes, I think it would be appropriate for us to act. No such evidence has been presented, and Orange County, of course, is known for having some of the safest and most secure voting in the state and in the country. And so SB 1174 would try to address this matter and ensure that local jurisdictions cannot impose their own voter ID requirements to try to engage in culture wars and try to disenfranchise voters. So with that, I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Senators, do we have any discussion on this item? I see none. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alrotigo. Archuleta. I, Ashby. I, Atkins. I, Becker. I, Blakespear. I, Bradford. I, Caballero. I, Cortesi. I, Daly. No, Dodd. I, Dorazo. I, Eggman. I, Glazer. Gonzalez. I, Grove. No, Hurtado. I, Jones. No, Laird. I, Limon. I, McGuire. Minjavar. I, Min. I, Newman. I, Wynn. No, Nilo. No, Ochobo. No, Padilla. I, Portantino. I, Roth. I, Rubio. I, Searto. No, Skinner. I, Small Cuevas. I, Stern. I, Umberg. Wahab. I, Wiener. I, Wilk. No.
Senator Min moves to call. Moving on to file item 52. Senator Skinner, are you prepared? She is prepared. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1210 by Senator Skinner, an act relating to utility service.
Senator Skinner, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam President, members. I think you've all been familiar with either individuals who are in the process of building a residential unit, or even a commercial unit for that matter, or large entities who are building such units. And they are then facing very high costs of a variety of utility hookups, whether for sewage, electricity, water, gas, you name it, and also timelines that can be considered absurd. There are many, many residential units that are ready for occupancy and yet cannot be occupied because they have not yet had that hookup. Now, while my bill originally tried to address all of that, and I understand that that was It's necessary, but it was too ambitious. What I've done instead with this bill is at least provided some transparency so that you can contact whichever utility entity, whether it's electricity, gas, or water, that is going to do, that you will need a hookup for, and you can determine in advance what the cost of that hookup will be. So this is simply and solely a transparency measure. It purely requires those entities, meaning California utilities who provide utility hookup service, to have list their fee schedule so that we know in advance what we are going to expect as to what this cost will be. And with that, I ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator. Colleagues, do we have any discussion on this item? Going once? Seeing none, Secretary, please read.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. Archuleta. I. Ashby. I. Atkins. I. Becker. I. Blakespear. I. Bradford. I. Caballero. I. Cortese. I. Daly. No. Dodd. I. Durazo. I. Eggman. I. Glazer. Gonzalez. I. Grove. Hurtado. I. Jones. Laird. I. Limon. I. McGuire. Minjabar. I. Min. I. Newman. I. Wynn. No. Nilo. Ochoa. Video. I. Portantino. I. Roth. I. Rubio. I. Sayarto. No. Skinner. I. Small Cuevas. I. Stern. I. Umberg. Wahab. I. Wiener. I. Wilk. I.
Senator Skinner moves a call. Senator Skinner, you prepare for the next file item? She is. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1211 by Senator Skinner, and Act relating to land use.
Senator Skinner, you may begin.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, ADUs are one of our California's housing success stories. They are relatively affordable to construct, and I say relatively. They are an efficient use of existing residential land and existing housing stock. And they are now, I think the recent numbers show that since we began to make it easier to remove some of the obstacles for ADUs, some 100,000 in California have been constructed. So that's since about 2018. Current law allows for ADUs on multifamily properties, but it unnecessarily restricts what is called detached ADUs. So our current law requires the ADUs on a multifamily property to be a conversion of something within the building envelope. But I think all of us are aware that there are some multifamily complexes that have lots of land associated with the complex where it could be appropriate to have a detached ADU. So what this bill does is provide some flexibility where ADUs can be sited on multifamily properties and allows ministerial approval of up to 8 detached ADUs on that multifamily property, as long as it doesn't double the existing units on the bill. So with that, I ask for your aye vote.
Do we have any discussion on this item? File item 53. I am seeing none. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. I. Archuleta. I. Ashby. I. Atkins. I. Becker. Blakespear. I. Bradford. I. Caballero. I. Cortese. I. Daly. No. Dodd. I. Durazo. I. Eggman. I. Glazer. Gonzalez. I. Grove. No. Hurtado. I. Jones. No. Laird. I. Limon. I. McGuire. Minjabar. Min. Aye. Newman. Aye. Nguyen. No. Neal. Ochoa. No. Padilla. Aye. Portantino. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Sayarto. No. Skinner. Aye. Small Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Aye. Umberg. Aye. Wahab. Aye. Weiner. Aye. Wilk.
Secretary, please call the absent members.
Nilo. No. Allen. Becker. Glazer. McGuire. Menjivar.
Aye.
Aye. Portantino. Rubio. Aye. Wilk. No.
Secretary, please call the absent members one more time.
Allen. Becker. Glazer. McGuire. Portantino.
Senator Glazer moves to a call. Moves a call. Moving on to file item 56, we have 56, 57, and 58, all three on deck. Senator Wilk looks prepared. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1495 by Senator Wilk, and act relating to alcoholic beverages.
Senator Wilk.
Thank you, Madam President and members. I present SB 1495, which would allow alcohol licensees to sponsor events or purchase advertising space from the world-famous Hollywood Forever Cemetery in Los Angeles, the home venue of the roastmaster himself. What's his name? Jeff what? You guys don't know who the roastmaster is? No, not Jeff Stone. The cemetery is currently a permanent retail on-sale license holder with the Type 88 license, which doesn't allow for this arrangement. The narrow tied house exemption allowed for under this bill would help generate important revenues for the care, maintenance, and improvement of the cemetery grounds and its ability to continue to host many popular cultural events. There's no opposition. The bill passed out of the GO committee 16-0. Respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Do you have any discussion or debate on file item 56? I am seeing none. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. Aye. Archuleta. Aye. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Aye. Caballero. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. Aye. Dodd. Aye. Dorazo. Aye. Eggman. Aye. Glazer. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. Aye. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. Aye. Laird. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Menjivar. Aye. Min. Newman. Aye. Wayne. Aye. Nilo. Aye. Ochoa. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Portantino. Aye. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Sayarto. Aye. Skinner. Aye. Small Cuevas. Stern. Aye. Umberg. Aye. Wahab. Aye. Weiner. Aye. Wilk. Aye.
Senator Wilk moves a call. We're going to go backwards. We're going to go back to file item 45. Senator Umberg, are you prepared? He is ready. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 940 by Senator Umberg, and act relating to civil disputes.
Senator Umberg, you may begin.
Thank you, Madam President and colleagues. This is a bill that addresses both consumer arbitration and other kinds of mediation and arbitration. As I think most of us know, it's becoming increasingly evident that disputes are often now being either required to go to arbitration or referred to arbitration. Consumer arbitration is of a different sort. If you've bought a cell phone, you've probably been engaged in a consumer arbitration agreement, whether you know it or not. This bill simply says that if you've got a dispute that's $12,500 or less, you can opt to go to small claims court rather than going through arbitration. If you do go to arbitration, that arbitration has to be conducted, for example, in California versus some other place. There are some other elements to the bill. One other element of the bill says that the State Bar of California can adopt a process of certifying that arbitration mediation entities, alternate dispute resolution entities, can apply to be certified in that they qualify because they follow certain ethical guidelines, that kind of thing. And it also has provisions that deal with conflict of interest of arbitration firms. With that, I urge an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator. Any discussion? I am seeing none. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. No. Archuleta. Aye. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Gabiado. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. No. Dodd. Durazo. Aye. Eggman. Aye. Glazer. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. Laird. Aye. Limon. McGuire. Minjavar. Aye. Min. Aye. Newman. Aye. Wynn. No. Nilo. No. Chobo. No. Padilla. Aye. Portantino. Aye. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Thearto. No. Skinner. Aye. Small Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Aye. Umberg. Aye. Wahab. Aye. Wiener. Wilk. No.
Senator Umberg moves a call. The next three we have coming up on file are going to be file items 57, 58, and 62. Starting off with Senator Skinner, file item 57, if the senator is prepared. She is. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 898 by Senator Skinner, an act relating to vehicles.
Senator Skinner.
Thank you, Madam President. Members, there's an interesting phenomenon, well documented, of a high incidence of left-sided skin cancers on your arms, face, and this is especially dominant within people who drive for a living. The same phenomenon is, for right-sided skin cancers is evident in those countries where you drive, the driver's seat is on the right side of the car versus the left side of the car. So what this bill does is provide for UV window filtering just on the the driver's side window for commercial vehicles where people are driving for a living to protect those drivers from this skin cancer. And this skin cancer disproportionately affects bus and truck drivers who obviously, because it's their living, often receive 6 hours of UV exposure while driving per day. So the bill purely applies to the windows on the driver's side, just that one large window for specified large trucks, commercial trucks, not light-duty utility trucks or not passenger cars and trucks. And the effective date is moved to 2032. And with that, I ask for your aye vote.
Do we have any discussion or debate? Senator Seattle, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I just have something for the body to consider here when you're looking at bills like this. One of them is the main issue I have with this bill, even though it is now just for trucks and commercial vehicles, is side windows are tempered glass, and tempered glass is easily, when you punch it, it breaks into little bits and falls down. So you have really quick access to get inside in the event of an emergency. When you put a laminate inside the window, it makes it much like a windshield. And a windshield you cannot just punch out. The windshield takes a while before you can actually get somebody out of a vehicle via the windshield. So if we're going to require this type of treatment to the window, not only does it raise the price of the car, the vehicle might not be that much, but I'm more concerned about quick access, not just by emergency workers, but also by passersby who are usually the first on scene of any of these accidents. And when it makes the most difference is when these vehicles are on fire and the glass hasn't broken out. The quickest way to get to them is to punch out that window. There are aftermarket treatments that can be used for people that are in the business and that are affected by these type of, by the UV rays. And so those can be applied as needed for the people that have concerns that they are being exposed. So, you know, for those reasons, I'm going to be opposing this bill and those like it because those few seconds or few minutes that it takes to gain better access or to go to the other side of the vehicle and try to access it from the other side can mean the difference between somebody surviving a very bad accident and not. And and I've seen a few of those, and those aren't fun. So with that, I'll be opposing it, and I would encourage you to consider that when you're voting on this bill. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Senator Skinner, you may close.
Thank you, Madam President. To respond to that, while it is more common for glass manufacturers to use laminate to add that UV protection, tempered glass can also have UV protection, and there are companies who do that. And you will note that the bill, this would not go into effect till 2032, so there's plenty of time for more companies to be able to use the UV protection with tempered glass, which addresses the safety concerns. And the bill does not preempt federal law because it doesn't affect the vehicle safety standards. There are already 20% of cars that have such UV protection on their on those side windows. And with that, I ask for your I vote.
Thank you, Senator. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. Archuleta. I. Ashby. I. Atkins. I. Becker. I. Blakespear. I. Bradford. I. Caballero. Cortese. I. Daly. No. Dodd. Dorazo. I. Eggman. I. Glazer. Gonzalez. I. Grove. No. Hurtado. Jones. No. Laird. I. Lamone. I. McGuire. Menjivar. I. Min. I. Newman. I. Wynn. No. Nilo. No. Chobo. No. Padilla. I. Portantino. Roth. Rubio. Ciarto. No. Skinner. I. Small Cuevas. I. Stern. Humbert. I. Wahab. I. Wiener. Wilk. No.
Senator Skinner moves a call. File item 58, Senator Durazo is ready. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1350 by Senator Durazo, an act relating to private employment.
Senator Durazo.
Madam President, SB 1350 simply requires the Department of Industrial Relations to make recommendations to the legislature on policies the state may adopt to protect domestic workers from work-related injuries and illnesses. Despite caring for what we hold most dear, our families and our homes, domestic workers remain without any health and safety protections. A year into the pandemic, domestic workers were 3 times more likely to have contracted COVID-19 than the general population. Additionally, climate-accelerated disasters magnify the vulnerability and dangers that domestic workers and day laborers face on a daily basis. During the wildfires that devastated California, domestic workers were asked to stay behind to fight fires, guard homes or pets, work in smoky conditions, and clean up toxic ash. Beyond these extreme dangers, domestic workers also face the risk of injury and illness in their day-to-day work related to lifting, chemical handling, and repetitive strain. Since the governor's veto last year of my prior legislation removing the exclusion of private pay household domestic service workers from health and safety requirements, I have been in conversation with his office regarding the health and safety of domestic workers. I'm hopeful that those conversations will result in a meaningful step forward this year in addressing the legitimate health and safety risks associated with domestic work. This measure has no opposition. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Senator Dolly, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I must rise in opposition. This is just another opportunity for trial attorneys to have a field day with somebody that's mowing your lawn or working around your property. We have OSHA rules for businesses, and this is just one step further. That's why the bill got vetoed last year. For those reasons, I will ask for a no vote on this bill.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Seattle, you're recognized.
A question for the author, please.
Would the author take a question?
Yes.
She will.
I'll respond in my closing. Yes.
Senator Seattle, please proceed.
With the question, or did she want to respond later? Okay. The question is, which domestic workers are you talking about? Are you talking about full-time workers, or are you talking about the person that might come by and leave their card on your door because they want to trim your palm trees? Or are you talking about the person that might clean 5 or 6 houses a week, but only comes to one house maybe once every couple of weeks or once every 4 weeks, once a month? Are we talking about all of them?
Is there any further discussion or debate?
I'm not done with, I just needed to answer that question.
The author mentioned that she would answer in her closing.
So I'm going to assume that it includes all of them. And if that's the case, then we could call this the Domestic Worker Unemployment Act, because nobody is going to have OSHA come in and certify their home to be able to hire somebody to come and that wants to come over and trim their palm trees, for instance. Because that is a very, that's something that they're seeking. They're seeking a temporary work doing a specific task that they're only going to be there for a little bit. If homeowners are going to be charged with the task or be subject to being sued, as my colleague from Bieber has stated, they're just not going to hire people that probably need that work the most. Remember, we're not allowed to be asking people if they are immigrants or illegal or legal or anything like that. You're just left to either hire somebody or not. And if you don't, if you can't because you're afraid of being sued, people that are out there seeking that job, they're not going to have work. And so I don't understand how this is going to help them. It certainly isn't going to help homeowners. And it just adds to what is basically a PAGA issue that we have with businesses. And it exposes them to liability. So for those reasons, I will be opposing this bill. I opposed it last year and I continue to have concerns about it this year.
Thank you, Senator. Do we have any other discussion on this item? Senator Durazo, you may close.
Thank you. Let me just clarify here. This bill simply requires the Department of Industrial Relations to make recommendations. There is no vote on changing the law. It's to make recommendations to the legislature on policies that the state may adopt to protect domestic workers from work-related injuries and illnesses. This is not, unfortunately, removing the exclusion of domestic workers from what should be something that we all support, because we want safe environment in our homes. That's where we live. That's where our kids live. We should want the safest possible place. It is a workplace. There's no disputing that. But more than anything, This bill is only to make recommendations to the legislature on policies the state may adopt. I respectfully ask for your vote.
Thank you, Senator. Secretary, please call the roll on file item 58.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. I. Archuleta. I. Ashby. I. Atkins. I. Becker. I. Blakespear. I. Bradford. I. Caballero. I. Cortese. I. Daly. No. Dodd. I. Durazo. I. Eggman. I. Glazer. Gonzalez. I. Grove. No. Hurtado. I. Jones. No. Laird. I. Limon. I. McGuire. Menjivar. I. Min. I. Newman. I. Wynn. No. Nilo. No. Chobog. No. Padilla. I. Portantino. I. Roth. I. Rubio. Sayarto. No. Skinner. I. Small Cuevas. I. Stern. I. Humbert. I. Wahab. I. Weiner. Wilk. No.
Senator Durazo moves a call. Senators, these are the three next on deck. We still have members off the floor. Roll call will still be placed on a call after the first round. We have up next file items 64, 65, and 66. Senator Smallwood Cuevas is prepared with file item 64. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1137 by Senator Small Cuevas, an act relating to discrimination.
Senator.
Thank you, Madam President, and good morning, members. I'm pleased to present SB 1137, which would make California the pioneering state to recognize intersectionality in our civil rights laws by clarifying that discrimination is prohibited not only because of one protected trait, but by any combination of two or more protected traits. Under current law, all individuals are protected from discrimination. But these cases are exacerbated when an individual has experienced discrimination based on a combination of intersections of protected classes. For example, when a Black woman brings forward a discrimination case, she may be forced to address her race and gender claims separately. In cases where intersectional discrimination occurs, the defense may attempt to use the separation of characteristics to defeat the claim entirely. Courts throughout the nation have ruled on these cases inconsistently and largely on a case-by-case basis. The intersectional discrimination is not limited to race and gender. Discrimination can be expressed based on one's age, race, national origin, or any combination of such classes. Those of us who live at the intersections of multiple protected classes know that these experiences cannot always be neatly separated. We are one whole self, and we carry all of our identities with us at all times, and it is necessary that our laws reflect that, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Do we have any discussion on this item? I see none. Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. I. Archuleta. I. Ashby. I. Atkins. I. Becker. I. Blakespear. I. Bradford. I. Caballero. I. Cortese. I. Daly. Dodd. I. Durazo. I. Eggman. I. Glazer. Gonzalez. I. Grove. Hurtado. I. Jones. No. Laird. I. Limon. I. McGuire. Menjivar. I. Min. I. Newman. I. Wynn. No. Nilo. Chobog. Padilla. I. Portantino. I. Roth. I. Rubio. Sayarto. No. Skinner. I. Small Cuevas. I. Stern. I. Humbert. I. Wahab. I. Weiner. Wilk. No.
Senator Smallwood Cuevas moves a call. Members, we're going to go back to file item 44. This is Senate Bill 1170 by Senator Menjivar. She's prepared. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1170 by Senator Menjivar, an act relating to the Political Reform Act of 1974.
Thank you, Mr. President. Getting a little bit of whiplash here. We're going back and forth. I'm rising for SB 1170. When candidates run for office, they face many issues concerning their safety and well-being to threats, harassment, and hostility often received during the campaign. These instances can take a toll on a candidate's mental health, and that can all look differently for the candidate, but run the gamut of increased anxiety, sleep disturbance, and panic attacks. SB 1170 will allow non-incumbent candidates running for political office to use campaign funds for campaign-related mental health care services. I think it's appropriate as May is Mental Health Awareness Month, that we look to ensure that we're closing the gaps in this area as much as possible. A 2023 survey conducted by the California Women's List found that over 100 Californians who ran for office between 2016 and 2023, more than 80% of them reported receiving online abuse, and over 50% experienced harassment in person. Over 50% of women of color and LGBT+ women experienced stalking on the campaign trail, and over 1/3 of them experienced physical violence. The coverage would be for services including therapy provided in a group or private setting, either virtually or in person, by a professional licensed by the California Board of Behavioral Sciences to address mental health issues, or by an associate occurring the hours for such a license. We can't stop the harassment from occurring by allowing campaign funds to be used for mental health care costs that are directly related to experiences in the campaign. Will help strive to increase the diversity of voices in government. With that, respectfully asking for an aye vote.
Members, any further discussion on this measure? Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. Aye. Archuleta. Aye. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Aye. Caballero. Cortese. Aye. Daly. No. Dodd. Durazo. Aye. Eggman. Aye. Glazer. Aye. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. Hurtado. Jones. No. Laird. Aye. Lamone. Aye. McGuire. Minjavar. Aye. Min. Aye. Newman. Aye. Wynn. No. Nilo. No. Achobo. No. Padilla. Aye. Portantino. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Ciarto. No. Skinner. Aye. Small. Cuevas. Stern. Aye. Umberg. Aye. Wahab. Aye. Wiener. Wilk. No.
Senator Menjivar moves a call. We're going to move next to file item 59. This is Senate Bill 1103 by Senator Menjivar. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1103 by Senator Menjivar, an act relating to tenancy.
Senator Menjivar.
Thank you, Mr. President. Back up on now SB 1103. Across California, small communities serving businesses and nonprofits are being displaced and going out of business at an alarming rate. Unclear and unfair lease terms, as well as exorbitant added fees, make it extremely difficult to find and stay in a commercial space. After working with a lot of members and the chair and Judish, I took a lot of amendments that trimmed this bill. To be clear, now SB 1103 will define what is a qualified commercial tenant, require the tenant to notify the landlord that they are a qualified commercial tenant, will then require the landlord as a response to inform the tenant to review supporting documentation that justifies an increase in CAM fees, which are maintenance fees that can be compared to an HOA fee for residentials. It requires the landlord, upon request of the qualified commercial tenant, to provide supporting documentation that justifies an increase in CAM fees to make sure they're being used for what they're supposed to be used for. We're going to put certain parameters on how the CAM fees can be charged, again, ensuring that they're used for what legally they're allowed to be used. And finally, we're going to require that the commercial lease contracts are negotiated in 5 different languages to include Spanish, Chinese, Tagalog, Vietnamese, or Korean. This bill does not limit commercial rent or impose any form of commercial rent control, and it does not impose or change any requirements for other contracts or financial documents. It only affects a very small subset of commercial leases, respectfully asking for an aye vote.
Members, any discussion or debate on this measure? Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado. Archuleta. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Bradford. Caballero. Aye. Cortese. Dally. No. Dodd. No. Durazo. Aye. Eggman. Aye. Glazer. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. No. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. No. Laird. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Menjivar. Aye. Min. Aye. Newman. Wynn. No. Nilo. No. Ochoa. No. Padilla. Aye. Portantino. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Sayarto. No. Skinner. Aye. Small. Cuevas. Stern. Aye. Umbert. Aye. Wahab. Aye. Weiner. Wilt. No.
Senator Menjivar moves a call. We're going to go back to our file order, members. We're going to start with file item 65. This is Senate Bill 1223 by Senator Becker. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1223 by Senator Becker, an act relating to privacy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm here today to present a bill about regulating brain data. Yes, brain data. And if that sounds futuristic, I can tell you everyone who was in a Judiciary Committee that day listening to my experts, including Rafa Yusta, who inspired President Obama's BRAIN initiative, everybody was paying rapt attention. Nobody was on their phones. Nobody was reading anything but paying attention to hear him talk about his Oppenheimer moment when he realized that he was able to not just read the thoughts of mice, but to implant thoughts into mice. So this is not science fiction. And a lot of this research is happening here in our area, and the experts themselves are the ones raising the red flag on this. There's been about $19 billion invested globally in over 200 neuroscience companies, including a wristband that will attempt to translate information about intentions and gestures from your wrist. So invasive technologies like you've heard of maybe Elon Musk's Neuralink, invasive devices like that actually are already regulated as medical devices. However, there are now over 30 class of neurotech companies that are doing non-invasive neurotech products. These devices record brain data using EEG sensors, but because they're not considered medical devices, they're not so tightly regulated. So that allows companies to collect and sell user data without consumer permission. And there's just a recent analysis of the privacy policies of all of these companies. And yes, they have the right to do whatever they want with brain data in almost all cases. And the CCPA protects personal information, but again, it doesn't cover neural data. So what this bill will do will make sure that neural data is covered by our CCPA by defining and classifying it as sensitive personal information and extending CCPA protections to neural data. Regulating neurotechnology early is crucial to ensure ethical use, protect privacy, establish standards, and address future challenges. Again, if you haven't heard about this, you will in the near future, and we in California have the chance to get ahead of this and respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Becker. Senator Becker, do you know what I'm thinking?
Yes.
Any further discussion or debate? Is there any further discussion or debate on this issue? Senator Becker knew that. All right, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado. Archuleta. I, Ashby. I, Atkins. I, Becker. I, Blakespear. I, Bradford. I, Caballero. I, Cortese. Daly. I, Dodd. I, Dorazo. I, Eggman. I, Glazer. I, Gonzalez. I, Grove. I, Hurtado. I, Jones. I, Laird. I, Lamone. I, McGuire. Menjivar. Min. I, Newman. I, Wynn. I, Nilo. I, Ochoa Padilla. I, Portantino. I, Roth. I, Rubio. Sayarto. Skinner. I, Small Cuevas. I, Stern. I, Humbert. I, Wahab. I, Weiner. Wilk.
Senator Becker thinks a call, moves a call. All right, we're going to move next to file item 66. This is Senate Bill 1224 by Senator Ochoa Bogue. She is prepared. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1224 by Senator Ochoa Bogue, an act relating to alcoholic beverages.
Senator Ochoa Bogue, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, Senate Bill 1224 will allow the Riverside County Fairgrounds in Indio to serve alcohol on site as long as food service is available to the public at all times during the events. This change ensures the fair can continue operating as it has for almost 2 decades, allowing the community to benefit from the substantial revenue that fair events contribute to the local economy. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Any discussion or debate on this matter? Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. I, Archuleta. I, Ashby. I, Atkins. I, Becker. I, Blakespear. I, Bradford. I, Caballero. I, Cortese. I, Daly. I, Dodd. I, Dorazo. I, Eggman. I, Glazer. I, Gonzalez. I, Grove. I, Hurtado. I, Jones. I, Laird. I, Lamone. I, McGuire. Menjivar. I, Min. I, Newman. I, Wynn. I, Nilo. Ochoa Bogue. I, Padilla. I, Portantino. I, Roth. I, Rubio. I, Sayarto. I, Skinner. I, Small Cuevas. I, Stern. I, Humbert. I, Wahab. I, Weiner. Wilk. I, Nilo. I.
Senator Ochoa Bogue moves a call. We're going to move next to file item 67 and 68. These are both measures by Senator Min. Start with file item 67, SB 1271. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1271 by Senator Min, an act relating to public safety.
Thank you, Mr. President. SB 1271 would enhance the safety and regulatory compliance of electric bicycles and electric scooters by requiring all e-bikes and e-scooters to be manufactured with batteries that meet the stringent standards of the European Union and Underwriters Laboratories. It would also modify the definition of e-bike classes to clarify what the appropriate class for a switchable e-bike is, if any, helping with safety concerns. In recent years, the sale of e-bikes has skyrocketed, and in turn, this has increased the concerns about potential speed and fire risks. This measure would help consumers by modifying the definition of e-bike classes to clarify what constitutes an e-bike, as well as removing lower quality, high fire risk personal mobility device batteries from the market. Respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Members, any discussion on this measure? Any discussion on this measure? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. I, Archuleta. I, Ashby. I, Atkins. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Aye. Caballero. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. Aye. Dodd. Aye. Durazo. Aye. Eggman. Glazer. Aye. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. Aye. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. Aye. Laird. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Minjavar. Min. Aye. Newman. Aye. Wynn. Aye. Nilo. Aye. Ochobo. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Portantino. Aye. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Searto. Aye. Skinner. Aye. Small Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Aye. Umbert. Aye. Wahab. Wiener.
All right, members, we have a full house again. So we're going to go through the roll one more
Vote aye.
time. Secretary, please call the roll. Absent members.
Allen. Atkins. Aye. Eggman. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Minjavar. Aye. Wahab. Aye. Wiener. Aye. Wilt. Aye.
We go. On a vote of 39-0, the measure is adopted. We're going to move next to file item 68. This is Senate Bill 1286 by Senator Min. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1286 by Senator Min, an act relating to debt collection.
Senator Min.
Thank you, Mr. President. In recent years, we've seen a rise in predatory debt collection practices targeted at small business owners. SB 1286 would try to address this by protecting small business owners under the Rosenthal Fair Debt Collections Act when they're individuals who have personally signed for their business debt. There are over 30 million small businesses in California run by individuals, and these business owners are operating very similarly to individual consumers when navigating the financial marketplace. This was particularly true after the COVID-19 pandemic as they struggled to acquire capital, especially for minority-owned businesses that often struggled to find credit. Providing a personal guarantee for business debt opens the door for small business owners to be subjected personally to abusive debt collection practices of the kind that the Rosenthal Act was meant to prohibit, including threats, contacting borrowers at inconvenient hours, using false statements, or adding unauthorized interest or fees to the amounts owed. Under SB 1286, borrowers would still be responsible for paying these debts, but would be protected from unfair, deceptive, or abusive collection practices. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Members, any further discussion on this measure? Any further discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. Archuleta. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Aye. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Caballero. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. No. Dodd. Durazo. Dodd. Aye. Durazo. Aye. Eggman. Aye. Glazer.
Aye.
Aye. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. No. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. No. Laird. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Minjavar. Min. Aye. Newman. Aye. Wynn. No. Nilo. No. Ochoa. No. Padilla. Aye. Portantino. Aye. Roth. Rubio. Searto. No. Skinner. Aye. Small Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Aye. Umbert. Aye. Wahab. Aye. Wiener. Aye. Wilt. No.
Members, we have a full house, so we're going to go through the roll one last time. Please call the absent members.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. No. Archuleta. Aye. Bradford. Minjavar. Aye. Roth. Rubio. Aye.
On a vote of 28-9, the measure carries. We're going to move next to file item 69. This is Senate Bill 1354 by Senator Wahab. She's prepared. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1354 by Senator Wahab, enact relating to health facilities.
Senator Wahab.
Thank you. I rise to present SB 1354, the Protect Seniors at All Costs Act. SB 1354 aligns the law with regulations regarding skilled nursing facilities and protects the rights of residents regardless of their payment source. SB 1354 also requires residents being transferred or discharged be informed that they may be eligible for Medi-Cal's long-term care program to help pay for their stay. Payment source discrimination forces low-income seniors to move away from family, friends, and their healthcare providers in order to access a facility that will accept Medi-Cal, sometimes hundreds of miles away. This practice only exists so skilled nursing facilities can make space for more lucrative private pay or Medicare residents. SB 1354 will strengthen and enhance the rights of residents in these facilities and protect against discrimination based on their payment source. I respectfully ask for an aye.
Members, any further discussion on this measure? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. Archuleta. Aye. Ashby. Aye. Atkins. Becker. Aye. Blakespear. Aye. Bradford. Aye. Caballero. Aye. Cortese. Aye. Daly. No. Dodd. Aye. Durazo. Aye. Eggman. Aye. Glazer. Aye. Gonzalez. Aye. Grove. No. Hurtado. Aye. Jones. Laird. Aye. Limon. Aye. McGuire. Aye. Menjivar. Min. Aye. Newman. Aye. Wayne. No. Nilo. No. Ochoa Bogue. No. Padilla. Aye. Portantino. Aye. Roth. Aye. Rubio. Ciarto. No. Skinner. Aye. Small Cuevas. Aye. Stern. Umberg. Stern. Aye. Umberg. Aye. Wahab. Aye. Wiener. Aye. Wilk. No.
Please call the absent members.
Allen. Alvarado Gil. No. Atkins. Aye. Jones. No. Menjivar. Aye. Rubio. Aye.
On a vote of 30 to 9, the measure passes. Members, we're about to go into recess. To return here to the chambers at 1:30 sharp, 1:30 sharp. Prior to that, I want to recognize the Majority Leader, Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Democratic members, we're going to have lunch at 12 o'clock, as mentioned by the presiding officer, and then a 12:20 p.m. caucus. Thank you, in the Maddie Lounge.
Thank you, and recognizing the Minority Leader, Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, same for the Republicans. Lunch is being provided, and we will meet in room 215 for our caucus meeting.
Thank you, members, for a productive morning. We will be in recess until 1:30 sharp.
Hey everyone, real quick, hopefully everyone can hear me. We're actually going to be going to recess lunch, and please come back to the Emina Mass Media Group YouTube page so we can start up again. I'm going to be closing out this live stream. So go to our YouTube page and it will show live again. So wonderful. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate you. So please come back at 1:30. Go to our Emend the Mass Media Group YouTube page. That's EMEND, the Mass Media Group YouTube page. And we're going to be doing part 2. All right, family. Thanks again. Have a good one. Once again, we're looking for SB 1050, SB 1331, and SB 1403 after lunch at the California Senate floor session. Peace and reparations.
The way it currently stands, forced labor, slavery takes precedence over rehabilitation and public safety.
Oh, by the way, while the Biden administration gives reparations to everyone but free people, look at the billions he has run over to Ukraine.
We don't have black grocery stores because if you think about it now, just to get in that supply chain, it's almost unheard of.
They don't want the truth to get out. Okay? I don't want to know what my family did or what all these people did and all this stuff like that. Okay? You read that 500-page report.
There's this thing called white superiority and black inferiority. That mindset allows all of the behaviors that we've seen across generations, allows for the construction of these policies and practices and systems and structures that continue to oppress us. This is not a handout. This is a debt that is owed.
You know, Allensworth was like the internet of his time in 1904, 1905.
The total black population in California is about 2.6 million, and then of that, the descendants compose about 2.2 million of that. So California, with a multi-billion-dollar surplus, can absolutely afford to satisfy the international terms for reparations, beginning with compensation.
Any financial obstacle that exists that impedes the success of increasing financial prosperity needs to be dealt with and eliminated.
No matter where we've been, no matter what part of this fight we've been in, we've been harmed, and we've had harm done to us specifically.
When I got to Los Angeles, this was some of the worst segregation I'd ever seen. And remember, I'm telling you, I'm from Mississippi.
Because as you can see, I'm giving you broken history right now, you know? But I had to give it to you guys today. I said, no, I got to show them this because it's so precious and nobody really knows about it.
Black people don't have that kind of luxury. Our historically black communities have been redistricted multiple times.
Now listen, if you can't handle the TR roof, don't tune in.